Okay, this is Star Realms. Star Realms is a spaceship combat deck building game. So it's a deck building game, so everything you need to play comes in one box. This game will actually come in a nice, convenient little tuck box that contains 128 cards, and you can fit that box in your jacket pocket, so it's super portable, really easy to bring with you when you're going places to game. And what you get with that is the central deck here, and each player has a 10-card deck which contains 8 scouts, and scouts give you trade, and 2 vipers, and vipers give you combat. And trade is used to purchase cards, and combat is used to attack your opponent. In this game, your goal is to knock your opponent's authority from the starting 50 points down to 0. There are cards here which represent your authority. You can track your authority on paper or with coins, but we provide you with these nice double-sided cards which allow you to track your authority on it. You have a 20, 2 10s, a 5, and 5 1s to start out to represent your 50. So on your turn, you're going to have a 5-card hand. So for example, if you had a hand containing 3 scouts and 2 vipers, you could play the 2 vipers and use that to attack your opponent or any of their bases. If you attack your opponent, they'd simply remove 2 of their authority cards from their score and put them aside, and now they'd be at 48. With your scouts give you trade. That allows you to buy new cards for your deck. When you buy a card, you're purchasing it from this row here. There are 5 cards out in this row at all times, and if one of these cards is purchased, it's immediately replaced by the next card off the top of the deck. There's also a stack of explorers. These are this stack is available at the beginning of the game, and the explorers, when you play them from your hand, they give you 2 trades, so they're twice as good as your starting scouts. So any of these 6 cards, the 5 from the center row or this, are available for purchase. When you purchase a card, it goes immediately to your discard pile. At the end of the turn, all the ships you play go to your discard pile, and then any cards left in your hand go to your discard pile, then you draw a new hand of 5 cards. If you ever need to draw a card and there's no cards left in your deck, you immediately shuffle your discard pile, that becomes your new deck, and that way the cards that you're purchasing work their way into your deck over the course of the game. So you're building your deck as you're playing. There are 2 types of cards that go in your deck. There are ships, and ships are printed vertically, and ships have a cost on them, and they have abilities that they do. When you play a ship from your hand, it does what it says, and then at the end of your turn it goes to your discard pile. The other type of card is a base, and bases are printed horizontally, and bases have a defense value. When you play a base, it stays in play, and you get to use its ability every single turn until it's destroyed. In order to destroy a base, your opponent has to do damage to it equal to its defense value. When a base is destroyed, it goes to its owner's discard pile. So you would be able to play it again later in the game, but until you play it again, it's out of commission. Some bases have a little tag on them designating them as an outpost. Outposts protect you and your other bases. If you have an outpost out, your bases and you cannot be attacked until the outpost is destroyed. So, when you make an attack, you get to decide, if your opponent has a base, whether you attack them or their base, and if they have an outpost, your only option is to attack their outpost. If you don't have enough combat to destroy their outpost, then your attack that turn will be ineffective. Okay, I'll go through some sample turns here. So, when you start a game of Star Realms, each player takes their 10-card deck and they shuffle it up. You then randomly determine which player is going first. The player who's going first on their very first turn of the game only gets a 3-card starting hand. So, for example, this might be a starting hand that you could get. And then from that, you can make as many purchases as you like as long as you can afford them. So for example, with this 3 trade, you could buy Federation Shuttle, and then it's immediately replaced by the next card on top of the deck. So you have 2 remaining. So you could buy the trade bot for 1, or and have 1 left over, maybe a cheap card to come, or you could pay 2 to buy an Explorer. So let's buy an Explorer. That goes to the discard pile. Now at the end of the turn, all the ships that you played that turn go to your discard pile, and then any cards left in your hand go to your discard pile. If you have any trade or combat left in your pool, that's emptied, and then you go to your draw phase and you draw a new hand of 5 cards. So these basic ships are very easy. They have a resource they give you. More advanced ships in the game that you'll be purchasing have a little more text. So as you can see with this card, its base ability is to draw a card and to give you 5 combat. So the battle cruiser hits pretty hard. Then it's got 2 other abilities on it. These are abilities that you'll see on cards in the game. The first one is an ally ability. Ally abilities always match the faction symbol in the upper left-hand corner. So you can see the battle cruiser has this yellow star. That's the Star Empire's logo. And down here it's got that yellow star again. What that means is if you have another card of this faction in play, you get to use this extra ability. So if I have another Star Empire card on the table, my opponent would have to discard a card when I play this. And then the last ability is this little trash can symbol. And that is an ability that you can use only one time with a ship or base. When you use this ability, it's called a scrap ability, you remove the card from the game to gain this additional effect. And that's in addition to everything else that the card did that turn, but you're giving up the card permanently, so you have to decide whether it's worth that extra ability. In this case, you can destroy target base and draw a card by taking the battle cruiser and removing it from the game. So that can represent a ship going on a kamikaze mission, or you selling off a ship for parts. Various effects can give you that scrap ability. Okay, so the first player had a 3-card starting hand. The second player has a 5-card starting hand. So in this case, he's got 1 combat. It would do 1 damage to his opponent because there's no bases on the other side. And then he's got 4 to spend. So spend 1 on the trade bot, goes to the discard pile, and is replaced by the next card. And then he's going to spend 3 to buy this base. This is a blob wheel. Every turn it provides 1 combat. It's got a 5 defense, and the player can choose to scrap this card from play to gain 3 trade. So abilities like that can be really nice to allow you to buy a bigger card partway through the game. You can give up your blob wheel, get that additional 3 trade, and use it to make a really big purchase during the game. And then at the end of this player's turn, all the cards go to the discard pile, and a new hand of 5 cards is drawn. Then going back to player 1, he's got 5 trade available, and there's a nice ship here, the survey ship. When you play it from your hand, you draw a card and make a trade. So that drawing cards is always good because you get to play every single card in your hand during a turn. So I'm just going to spend 3 on that one, and then with 2 remaining, buy another Explorer card. Now, end of the turn, all the ship cards played go to the discard pile, and you need to draw a new hand of 5 cards. You only have 2 cards left in your deck, so you draw those 2, and now you need to draw more cards. So you take your discard pile, shuffle that up, and that becomes the new deck, and then you draw 3 more cards from there. Okay, at this point in the game, this player has out 2 bases, one of which is an outpost. This outpost has a defense of 5, and the player and their other base cannot be attacked with this outpost in play. So I've got a battle cruiser, which I can play from my hand. It gives me 5 combat and it lets me draw a card. I'm going to play a survey ship. This lets me draw a card and gives me 1 trade. And now that I've played the survey ship, I can use the ally ability of the battle cruiser because I have 2 Star Empire cards in play. So it forces my opponent to discard a card, and they're going to choose to discard a scout. So now I have 5 combat available, and I'm going to play a trade bot. It gives me a trade, and I can scrap a card in my discard pile. So I can take this Viper and get rid of it, so I won't draw it anymore. And then I've got an Explorer and 3 Scouts. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trade and 5 combat available. I'm going to use my 5 combat to destroy this junkyard. So that card goes to my opponent's discard pile. Now I'm going to take this Explorer, which has already given me 2 trade, and I'm going to scrap it. And when you scrap an Explorer, it goes back to the Explorer pile, and that's going to give me 2 combat. And I could either use that 2 combat to attack my opponent's blob wheel, but it has a 5 defense, so that wouldn't do anything. So instead, I'm going to choose to attack them, and that's going to reduce their score by 2. And now, finally, with my 7 trade that I have available, I'm going to purchase this blob fighter. It goes to my discard pile. And with 6 left, I'm going to purchase a missile knife. Now, if I wanted to, I could use the scrap abilities on these cards. This card has a scrap ability that makes my opponent discard a card, and this one has a scrap ability of destroying target base and drawing a card. But if I use those scrap abilities, these cards would be removed from the game and they'd no longer be in my deck. Kind of want to keep them right now because my opponent's still at a pretty high score. I think the game's going to go on for a while. So I'm just going to put all these cards at the end of my turn into my discard pile.
I actually thought about taking